Greetings, YouTubians, and welcome back to Wayne Sharp World, where today we have another episode of Battle of the Blades featuring the CJRB Ria, as well as the Sencut Scepter, a new one recommended by you guys. And as I looked at this scepter, it reminded me of something. I couldn't quite put my finger on what it was, and then it hit me. I don't know, I think it's the length and the overall blade and handle ratio, but the Ria, look at this. This makes for a perfect comparison, I think. So I had to put one together for you guys. As usual now, these knives are going to be linked in the bottom of this video in the description, so you can hop on Amazon and pick one up for yourself. And also, big announcement, there has been some changes to the way I'll be scoring Battle of the Blades, and it was a fantastic suggestion by a viewer named Kenneth. Kenneth, thank you again for the suggestion. It really is a good one. So this is what we're going to be doing from now on. We're going to be scoring each category, our regular 7 categories of blade, handle and ergos, value, carry, quality, action, and aesthetics, on a point basis of 1 through 5. 1 is going to be trash, 5 is going to be damn near perfect, and I'm going to go in half-point increments. So, with that being said, it's going to make for a closer competition. It won't be to where if, you won't have a potential 5-2 or 6-1 win. It's going to be closer, and I think it's going to be a better way to give each knife a little more proper due, as to where, maybe the Ria wins 6-1, but that doesn't mean that the Sencut only getting 1 point is really that bad of a knife. They're both great knives. That's why I'm comparing them. I'm not going to compare 2 gas station knives on this channel, guys. There's going to be good knives being compared and reviewed, so that's what I thought it was the best reason to do it, is it would give both knives the credit they do deserve. So with that being said, let's go. Let's get this on. New scoring system in place. Let's do it. And let's start off with the Ria, and let's start with blade. We have a stock at 0.09 inches thick with an edge of 15 thousandths, and the steel being AR RPM 9, which, as we know, is CJRB's powder metallurgy steel, and it's a pretty good blade. I have no issues with it. You guys already know how I feel about the Ria and how much I like this blade. It's just an excellent little casual EDC blade. It really is. It's great for the office. It's great for your daily errands. It's great for just about anything you really want to do with it. Within reason, of course. It's a smaller knife, and it may not be the most heavy use blade there is, but it's still a really, really good blade. Going to give this blade 3.5 points, 3.5 points for the blade of this knife. And as we get into the scepter as well has a relatively thin stock. We're looking at 0.11 inches thick and a behind the edge reading of 17 thousandths, which again, still pretty darn slicey. We have 9CR18 MOV steel, which, as we all know, is Civivi's budget line of steel, or their kind of their alternative to where it's not D2, but people still like it. It's a pretty good steel. Personally, I've been having a little better experience with AR RPM 9. I think the edge retention is a little better, at least from what I'm finding. So gonna give that little advantage and give 3 points to the blade of the Scepter. So as I said, still a great blade though, very nice and useful. One thing that is worth noting on these 2 blades is the tip location. The tip on the Scepter is located more right in the middle of the blade, as to where the tip of the Ria is a little higher up, and that does make a little difference if you're trying to do draw cuts, or if you're just cutting open a bag of chips or a bag of candy, whatever. You have a slightly more aggressive tip with the Scepter, which is nice. But I think overall, from my experience with both these knives, I do obviously have a little more experience with the Ria because it's a knife I've carried a lot more because I've had it longer. But they're still both good blades. I think the Ria does score a little higher in the blade department. Now, moving on to handle and ergos. The Ria is slimmer. It's a little smoother in hand. The pocket clip is not very obtrusive. This is actually a very nice feeling pocket clip. You feel it very little, if at all. No hot spots, obviously. Just nice, smooth lines on the Ria. It's not necessarily a neutral grip, but it's just very smooth. It's a very smooth feeling. So I do like that a lot. when you get into the Scepter, you still have good ergos, and a big advantage on the Scepter is this little choilish area here. I won't call it a full choil because it's definitely not, but it does feel pretty good in hand, and I don't worry about this little tip right here cutting me because you're putting the pressure actually on the flat of the choil, so you're not really pushing up against the blade, and it just gives you that extra little control for any of that detail work. It kind of reminds me of the Elementum, but where the Sencut Scepter kind of falls behind is the pocket clip here, and I like the pocket clip. It's ultra deep carry. I mean, it even goes a little past the handle, so that's always really nice. But the problem is the combination of slimness and thinness of the handle. It's, you know, without that clip, it would feel great. But with that clip back here, it really kind of swells out, and it makes the bottom of the handle just feel a little weird, to where it actually feels better in this position than it does this position. I know that's crazy, but it really does. It pushes the clip a little more up into a certain part of your palm, or at least my palm, my hand, to where it feels a little better like this. I still think it works fine just like this, but when I do this, I start to feel a little more of that clip pushing farther on the back of my hand, as to where, like I said, you move up and it kind of goes into that deeper portion of your hand. But regardless, I just feel the clip more than I want to. So when it comes to the handle and ergos, I scored 3 points for the Ria and 2.5 points for the Scepter. So still not bad. I definitely wouldn't call it bad, but closer to the average side, as to where I think the Ria actually excels and is better than good, but not great. The Scepter is just, decent, just decent. Moving into value. Now, the materials really vary on this Ria, and what I have here is a Knife Center exclusive. I believe it was $49.99 or $59.99 with Paco wood. I believe it's Paco wood scales, and the milled clip. So that's obviously the range of materials for this knife. They start at $31.95 for the base, and they go up to like $74.99. There's one with marble carbon fiber and a milled clip on Knife Center, which is pretty sweet. That's the one that's $74.99. So you have a really wide range. Now, I do like that. I really like having a lot of flavors, a lot of options for any knife, especially one as good as the Ria. So with that being said, I think every level is a pretty good value. I don't think at any level is too expensive or unreasonable. So for that, I'm going to give it a very strong 4. I really like the variety. I like the cost at pretty much every range, and I had no problem paying my $50 or $60 for this one. So 4 for the value of the Ria. And when it comes to the Scepter, it's still pretty good. I mean, you got micarta, the 9CR, which is a slightly lesser steel in my opinion, for $42.50. So, not bad. It's not bad, but you don't have that variety. You don't have the little more classy materials that you have with the Ria. So, with that being said, I'm going to give a 3 for the overall value for this here Scepter. I also think $42.50 maybe almost just a tad high, in all honesty, comparing it to Civivi's line. And, if they're going to put the quality and everything into this, I don't know. $42.50 is just... I don't want to say it's too much because I don't know, but you can get this Ria for $31.95. The base price for $31.95. Now that won't have micarta, but still, pretty big difference there of the bottom base prices. So I gave it a 3 in that category. Now when it comes to carry, I'll just keep going with the Scepter here. The carry for both of them, this is kind of a tie. I'm giving them both 3.5s because they both carry very well, but in their own way. So the Scepter, as I was saying, it has the deep carry clip, and it's super deep carry. So while the clip may disadvantage it in the actual handle and ergos portion, it really does feel good in the pocket. You close this guy up, you have a pretty small flipper tab that isn't horrible. You may feel it. Again, that's not something that is going to make me, cry wolf about. The blade doesn't stick out too much. All in all, it sits really well in your pocket and super deep. It disappears in the pocket as far as appearance goes, so that's really nice. So I think 3.5 is I may be a little bit of a stickler on the score of this, but 3.5 I think is where it's at for me. Now the Ria, The Ria obviously does not have a deep carry clip. It has just a regular milled clip, which I think looks fantastic on this model. Just the lines flow fantastically good, and it looks great. So when it sits in your pocket, the Ria actually, is obviously going to show a little. You're going to see maybe that much, but the way it's sticking up like that, people could think it's a pen. I mean, it's kind of the penish clip, and it's round at the top. It could very well, people think it's just a pen. So it's not exactly screaming knife. And it's also a little slimmer in the pocket. You don't have that flipper tab. It's nice and smooth on these Proud liners, but they don't stick up too much. It's not quite like the QSP Hawk. It's not that bad, but it is a little slippery. But it does kind of help you when you're reaching in your pocket. You just don't really feel anything. So that's really nice in its own right. Would I like a deep carry pocket clip on this? I might, but this milled clip is really comfortable as well, so I'm fine with it being there. So yeah, 3.5 for the score on that as well, because it still rides and feels very, very good in the pocket. Quality. Let's get into the quality. One of my favorite categories, because I really like to pick these knives apart. Quality for the Scepter is going to be a 4. And it's really the only thing I have to say to justify that is Civivi made it, and it feels like a Civivi. So you guys already know, but I'll go into a little more detail. It's got that crisp detent. It's got that pretty easy liner lock access. The nice finishing on the scales. Like I did say, the scales were a little fuzzy, but I think as you use it and wear it up in your hand, it's going to patina in and look really good. Action is nice and smooth. Of course, that's different category, but bad quality could affect the action. But overall, there's just no fit and finish issues whatsoever. Super solid lockup. There's just nothing. There's nothing for me to really knock it on. Since it is a budget knife, though, I can't give it a full 5 because I wouldn't call it damn near perfect. But I would call it really, really good. So I'm going to be giving it a 4 in the quality category. Now, quality for the Ria. This is another one. We're going to go 4 here as well because, it is a lesser cost budget knife, but I don't see a lot to pick apart about it. It is, especially with these wood scales, the wood scales open up a pretty big opportunity for there to be quality defects. I know this is pocket wood, so it's not exactly real wood, but you can still have blemishes. It can look weird. This has a very nice smooth finish along the edges as well. Nothing that's scraping or catching. Just very well done by CJRB. It looks great. Great edge, great lockup. Great clip. There's nothing throwing any real flags. So again, for the quality on this guy right here, we're gonna go 4. Now action. I'm gonna stick with the Ria on the action here. The action has to be 5 because it really couldn't be much better. The only thing that I think would make this knife better would be a thumb stud on the other side, so I could middle finger flick this. But I tell you what, I really enjoy this thumb flicking so much on this Ria. I don't want to say I don't miss it, but I just don't care that much that it's not there because it flies right out and it's just buttery smooth. It closes and it's pretty buttery, and it just the ever so slightest amount. I could actually probably open this guy up and clean it a little. There may be a little gunk getting in this because I've carried it so much, but it's just a fantastic little knife with the best action you could ask for on a knife with just thumb studs. No complaints here, so a very solid 5 on the action for the Ria. Now, when we get to the Scepter, I mean, again, yeah, it's got that Civivi-ish action. It has great thumb studs, and it does have the thumb stud on the back to where you can flick it right out with your middle finger. So it's still fantastic here, but I am only going to go 4.5. I'm going to go 4.5 on the action because sometimes the flipper can be, I don't want to say hard, but it's so minimal. Sometimes your finger can kind of slip off it. It doesn't happen very often, but it has happened to me a couple times. It can start to be a little aggressive on your finger. Could I put that in the quality category? I guess I could, but it also affects the action just as much. So, I mean, a half a point here, a half a point there, it kind of is what it is. So we're going to go 4.5 on the action for the Scepter, which is still a very, very good score. The action's fantastic on this knife. Nothing to really pick about it, but I do wanted to mention that. And, yeah. So 4.5 for the action on the Scepter. Another thing that's worth noting with the Ria, for you lefties out there, you know, you can't change the pocket clip on this, but watch this. Yeah, you can middle finger flick this guy. You got to get used to it, but keep in mind, I'm a righty, and you have a lefty doing the middle finger flick on this knife. So if I can do it, you can definitely do it. Wanted to point that out. The Ria could possibly work out for some of you lefties if you don't mind just having a middle finger flick it every time. So I thought that was pretty cool and worth pointing out. Into aesthetics. These are two really good looking knives, guys. I'm going to go 4 on aesthetics for the Ria because it just, and I could go 5. I just, yeah, they could really knock down the size of the font on the blade for CJRB. That is an aesthetic thing that does kind of bother me. That's really kind of it, though. But yeah, that's just really big, so we're going to knock a point off. So 4 in overall aesthetics. Love the way these lines flow. It's just, like I said, it's a fantastic little gentleman's carry. No real issue whatsoever. And the score of a 4 reflects that. It is a very, very good looking knife. Now, when we get into the Scepter, we're going to go 3.5 because I do personally really like the look of this knife, but I think some people, it would kind of, may not be their favorite design. They may not agree with me on that. So I, as much as I try and give my personal grades, I also try and take stuff like aesthetics really into account as to where what not just myself, but what everyone would think of aesthetics. Of course, my opinion will kind of rule since it's my channel, but I do still think it looks good, but I don't think it looks as good as the Ria. I think the Ria looks a lot better. It's just a little more my style, but like I said, this is still good enough to where I think this is a very solid 3.5. Could possibly give it a 4, but I'm also kind of keeping into context the other designs that Civivi and Sencut have. So I do think this, I don't think this is one of their best designs ever, but I think it's a pretty solid design. So I think 3.5 is a fitting score. So with that being said, what do we have? What are we sitting at here? We have a score of 27-24 with the win going to the CJRB Ria. And this one was kind of, I wasn't sure what was going to happen or play out here, especially with this new scoring system. It does make for a lot closer competition, which I do like a lot. We'll have to see down the road how close some of these scores are, if there are any real blowouts, or, if there's higher scores in this. Obviously, 7 categories, 5 points. You have a maximum of 35 points. It'll be interesting to see how many knives hit higher to that 35-point mark. I don't think you'll ever see 5s all around, but who knows? But there we go, 27-24 to the Ria, slightly edging out the Sencut Scepter. Both are awesome knives. If you guys like either one of these, hop down in the description, click on the link, and pick one up for yourself. Let me know which one, how would you have scored this, or most importantly, who would you have given the win to in this battle? I look forward to hearing that. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day, and until the next one, I'm out.